Thank you for tuning in to the Realty with T3. This is Tesia Harris from Texas Trio Team, and I'm the team leader. But today I have really amazing guests. I've got some folks from Southland Title. So who are you guys?
Hi guys, I'm Brenda Duebbe with Southland Title here in Brenham, and I'm an escrow officer here.
Yeah, and I'm Lauren Whittington. I'm the business development representative here at Southland Title as well in Brenham.
But you ladies don't just work in Brenham. We just had an opportunity of going through a pretty wild transaction. So it's not just Brenham. Where are your other offices at?
We have Grimes. We're located in Grimes County and Brazos County, as well as Galveston and surrounding areas in Houston as well.
Yeah, so we've got our little Brazos Valley trio of offices,
Right.
College Station, Navasota, and Brenham. But then we've got like about 25 offices Texas-wide.
Yeah. So you guys are like sister companies, and you can just, if somebody is in Galveston, but they're buying a house in Brenham, they can work simultaneously
Absolutely.
doing that.
Yeah, we absolutely love working with our employees within the company, and we help each other out. So it's worked really well.
Absolutely. And you guys, did you recently just get into Brenham? Like I've seen y'all's names and everything, but your new location, is that what it is?
Yeah, so we were formerly Washington County Abstract. We had been in business for over 60 years. The company was owned by Milton Tate, the former mayor of Brenham. So I actually started with Washington County Abstract 10 years ago. So I kind of grew with the company, and a lot of people that were there were like some of the OG title people in Brenham. So that's who I learned under. And I came from Houston, a title company there, and just learning the rural side of title was like a whole new ball game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I had some great people ahead of me that kind of taught me how things work here. And so I'm so grateful for that experience and for those people that came before me where I got to learn so much. So that's just helped me to become like the escrow officer I am today, is because of learning from them.
Yeah, and you have like such a multifacet now that you've done like city living, and then now you're at a rural area, so you have a wealth of knowledge in both of those.
Exactly.
So what about you, Lauren? Where'd you come from?
I came from Houston, and it's so funny because when she called me, I was doing multimedia. I had my own business here in Brenham when we moved to Brenham during the COVID times. And it was all new to us because we were living central Houston, right in the middle of it all, near the Galleria. And we just thought, it's time. Like, we're going to head out. My husband officed out of DC at the time. I was a real estate agent at the time. So I was like, we can go anywhere, and then I always did multimedia on the side. So when she reached out to me, I had not worked for a company for probably 12 years, already always worked for myself, and I was like, I feel like I really felt like God was like, you need to go talk to her. It was just a crazy situation. And she said, I don't know if you know anything about title, but I follow you on socials and I think you might be good, and I said, this is so funny. My very first job when I graduated college was a title rep. I was at Houston Title, now Old Republic Title. And I was like, so yeah, I can do this, but now I'm like 40. And I'm like, I felt like I was like, this is so weird that I would be led to this opportunity, but going kind of off of what she's saying, I had the experience before, but because Southland Title bought Washington County Abstract out in 2019, but because we had such local roots here, and we had, an escrow team and the former mayor that was still kind of running it, they kind of let us operate as an island. And then when so many people retired kind of at the same time, and they were kind of like, okay, you know what, let's just go under the Southland umbrella, which was so good that they did, because it is a family company through and through. Almost every time I meet someone new at Southland, they're like, oh, that's so-and-so's sister or aunt or cousin or something. So I'm like, I love that it's a big company, but it's family. But yeah, so I just decided to come on, and because we would be doing this bigger rebrand, it kind of made sense to utilize the multimedia background, the social media background. And I think now that's where we can really add value to our clients, our agents, builders, developers, is that, sometimes it feels like, especially here in this market, it's so competitive. It's so saturated with title companies. We know you guys are like, we get it. I know there's another title company, you know, so to be able to say like, hey, let's take a property, let's do a reel about it. Let's spotlight it. What kind of value can we give you guys that we know when you come through the door, you're going to get excellent service and you're going to get great experience, but we want to really partner to be able to say, we want to help you guys out as much as we can. So kind of having that multimedia background, I think works in our favor a little bit more to be able to work hand in hand.
Yeah. And not only are you dealing with, you know, you coming from not doing it and learning it, you're using what you've learned over time, but then you're coming and you're rebranding an entire company that's had roots for a really long time. So I think that's really wise that you're going in and doing those things. So are you getting a pretty good response where people are making the transition pretty easily?
Absolutely. I think there is so much opportunity for us now moving into and rebranding as Southland Title. We have so much more technology available that we didn't have under Washington County Abstract, and just a broader reach. I'm super excited being able to, rebrand and have these things that we weren't able to have, because I came from a large title company in Houston and we had those things. And then I came to Washington County Abstract and things were so much different. I love the small town atmosphere here, but there are so many technology advances since that time. And I've just loved seeing the innovation and growth within the title industry. So I just felt like if we stayed under the umbrella of Washington County Abstract, it would just, I don't know, it just seemed to me like it was just time for a change, time for growth.
Refreshing some things and getting a new look. And, you know, rebranding can be really exciting. And so, I mean, it can have a lot of pitfalls, but it can also, you know, have a lot of beauty as it starts unfolding and you're seeing the benefits as it goes. So I would love to dive in because we're all in the same boat. I actually moved out to this area around the COVID time. I was in Montgomery County, and, you know, though it was like rural from Houston, like moving out here is so different. And so we have so many clients that come from out of state all the time or come from Houston, and they, you know, I think Brenham comes off as like a very hallmark town. And so how did you guys feel like whenever you first moved here and, you know, from a big city like that, and the whole adjustment for your families and everything?
Yeah, well, I'll speak to that too, because I know you've been here a lot longer than me.
Yeah.
But,
Because we're all three in the same, but we're all not Texas transplants, but we're all transplants here.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, coming from, you know, that area of Houston, and we had lived there for quite some time. But even owning my own business and being in real estate there, completely different market.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I mean, I was at the time, I became an agent not long after Harvey came through. And, you know, when you become an agent first, you're like, I just want to get business. I want to get listings, you know, and I was calling on for sell by owners that I knew.
That was brave.
Yeah. I was like, you know, they're flipping them, like they're flipping Harvey properties. Right. So I'm like, okay. So I went in and there was an area of town just outside of the Beltway where there were these really nice, great homes, great school district. And this one company I found weren't living in Houston. They're all from Florida. And they had 4 huge, amazing properties that they were flipping, but they all had, it was after the levee released, and they all had, 4 feet of water, you know, so it was like a huge undertaking. So of course I wanted the business, you know, and I got in and I was all excited. And then I had 4 listings. I think it was like 3.5 million, like my very first couple weeks of real estate. And I was there for it. I was like, it's fine. We're ready, you know, and our broker was bringing me in and he was like, can you handle this? You know, I'm like, yeah, it's fine, you know. But then it soon hit. It was like people would go in. One of my really good friends moved right next door to one, and she was like, did y'all get a mold test? Because it smells, you know. And I'm like, we did get a mold test. We did. Yeah, we had one that they were gone for so long. We had a leak in a toilet, and it came through the ceiling. And I'm there. Hey, is somebody gonna? What are y'all doing? You know? So like that was my very first like into real estate, into all this. And
then you get like on your disclosure, since they didn't live here or anything, they're like unknown.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know this. We don't know that. And then you start, you know, they're trying to get teams, and it's like, I don't know how well the construction is going into these things, you know. So it was crazy. You know, everyone's like, if you list, you last, you know. And I'm like, yeah, everyone's listings. And then I slowly was like, I really like working working with buyers because I'm just, I'm just their buddy in the process. I'm not like, please overlook this. And but anyway, so I was doing that and it was just like crazy. It was moving fast. And then when COVID and everything hit, I was really more focusing on the multimedia side, and that kind of thing. But, I had closings. It's so funny too, because speaking of small town, I feel like we all kind of saw, even in real estate and social media and sales, we all kind of saw like, with all this going on, everybody was like, I want to leave the city.
Yeah.
Like, I want to get out. I want to have some autonomy. And what's really funny, there's a builder here in town now. We just did a ribbon cutting a few months ago for her, and her and I were on the opposite side of a deal like before we moved out here.
Isn't that awesome though?
It's so cool.
All the relationships in real estate, whether you worked with somebody or, just somebody you met at an event, like you meet so many amazing people along the way, and then you pass them, as the years progress, and you're like, oh, you're doing that now.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And we all kind of had that same kind of thing. And then it's like, it's cool. Like you're saying, when you do move out here, we're all kind of learning it together. She's now, her and her husband are now a builder, and that's really where their focus is here. And so she's kind of taking what she knew about working for builders in Houston and the pricing and all of that, and coming out here where it's harder to get crews at people. Yeah. There's not as many builders. And she's like, oh, I can build an amazing home that's structurally sound and incredible for a lot less than what typically was being built over here, because it's just a smaller market.
And it's so fast paced, like over in Houston, like it's like, as far as your inventory, you're just boom, 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 buyer seller. Like it's just so rapid pace. And that is happening out here, but it's just, when you get out into a rural area, like it's just like you can actually, like at the end of the day, when you get home and you can just have your tea on your porch and just like,
yes.
Yes.
It's like my husband, he travels a lot for work and he flies. And he used to say, even though he had to drive an hour from the airport, where we are here, he's like, once I hit that sign that says Washington County, it just feels like I can relax, like I'm home, And I'm like, it's such a different, we were living in the middle of Houston, and it's like, it's still just, we had a bus route right in front of our, nice neighborhood. And it's like, nothing really felt like it could ever calm down. You know? So it does feel like that out here. And I think what's really different for me, working in title before and then working in title here, it was so much more transactional in Houston. And here it's so much more relational.
Yeah.
So much more.
Yes.
And that's where I think it's like, if you can find a way, like, and, we talk about this all the time in sales, and you guys know as agents, but you can have a best friend that doesn't use you, and it's like, it is relational, but I think for me, it's more like we have got to give these people value. If we can find a way to give these people value outside of the sale, that's where they rely on you, and you create loyalty instead of just, I really know her and like her, which is a huge part of it. But it's like, they could also have a family member that's an agent, or they get, and it's like to have some kind of other value piece where it's like, I really know her and like her, and I really trust her, and I'm going to use her instead.
Yeah. And like you constantly have to be upgrading and like, not going into the rebranding, but you're always upgrading and always pivoting all the time, and no matter what business that you're in. And so that's kind of why we did this. It's like, we know amazing people in the field and in the industry. You all have your amazing stories that you can talk about. Let's bring it home and like, let's talk about it. And then people can sit and stream whenever they want to, and start to know, like, and trust us, even though we're not available 24 hours a day. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's totally good. I love that. I heard somebody say about podcasting that they were like, a lot of people watch or listen to podcasts when they're doing something else, but you're in their ears. So she was saying, like, instead of just like a commercial or something on social media or whatever, this is like, yes, they really build that know, like, and trust so much deeper, because they're really getting to know the real you. And, whether they're doing the dishes or driving or whatever, you're in their ears. You know? So it's really cool. I love this setting. You can really get to know someone.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I love it so much. And so we've really enjoyed doing it. And there's just so many perspectives and things to talk about. So diving into title. A lot of, you worked with investors and I've worked with investors, but, sometimes even buyers and sellers have no idea, like, what is title insurance? Why do we need it? Do we have to do it? So can you dive in and kind of talk about the importance of what that is and
Sure.
why you should do it.
Yeah. Well, title insurance is, I think it's extremely important because this is this is a huge investment for most people. And so you want to make sure that your title is clear and that there's no prior liens on the property that can affect you in the future. And you just want to make sure that during the closing process that you trust the person that you're working with and the company that you're working with, and making sure that they have good experience and all of that. And you just want to make sure that that when you do purchase your title insurance, that that you can rely on that company to make sure you have a good product.
Yeah, backing up their word, and the research that you've pulled.
Yeah.
So for the people that don't know, like the way I like to say it, and add the flavor to it, but basically, like you're ensuring whenever you're purchasing or you're selling a property that there are no liens or judgments against the property, and it's not just your mortgage. Your mortgage loan that's out that you have to pay off. Like it could be something from years past that you had no idea about if you didn't get title insurance in the first place. So like HOA fees, that's common like out in the Houston area and those other counties. I think we're starting to see it a lot more probably out in this area.
More new developments come in.
Yeah, because it's expanding so much. But vendors liens and all of that. Even if you purchase something as a foreclosure or off the county courthouse steps, I've had a lot of clients that did that not knowing, or we hadn't connected before. And it's like, you could have bought the wrong property. Like the sign may have been somewhere and you bought something all the way across the county.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's a double check too, because it's like, this is something, I'll just be personal about this, but with my property, when I first purchased it, there's so many things that we did not know. That just, maybe, and I think that speaks first to having a good agent. But, so at the time, there are certain things on it. Well, now we went to go list and sell it again. And our agent said, do you not have a pipeline running underneath your property? And it's probably active. Did you know that? And it's like, no, we didn't. So, we start talking because obviously we're closing at Southland Title. Yeah. And she's like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's pull this. So it's starting there, but then it's like, going back to the title company where you can look, and here too, and especially in rural areas where there's lots of land, there's so many airship, things that you have to
minerals
look into,
and everything.
minerals, all of that stuff. And I think too, like working with a company that in a rural area that has been there 60 something years,
right?
We have a lot of priors, we have a lot of that stuff, and we kind of share every now and then, with them, but we've got stuff on land that go back, oh my gosh, 60 years, where we can really see what's going on. And then even here with land, there's so many people in the cities, we know, coming from California, even coming from Houston and the bigger cities, kind of wanting that piece of Texas, and it's like, they have no idea what to look for. They have no idea what they, as far as mineral rights, oil production, how they can drill on your land and all of this stuff, subsurface rights and all of this. And so to be able to just have really easy access to that stuff. And we've got great examiners and things like that. But yeah, there's so much about a piece of land from people ownership to oil and gas that like you just don't know about.
Yeah, it is definitely a switch from working lot and block properties in Houston to coming to rural locations and seeing the minerals and active leases and things like that, and then trying to help people understand that difference. And so we do work with attorneys a lot. For buyers and sellers, and just trying to help educate our customers on certain things. So that's especially for people that are moving, to rural locations where they're not used to those differences.
Yeah.
So
because it's so different, because you're going to have other aspects to the entire purchase, and so knowing your well, septic, all those other things that you're not typically dealing with. And so when you're hustling in the city every day, like you have to be aware of the codes and everything, of the maintenance and all of that as well.
Yes.
So it takes an entire, like it feels like it takes an army to do a transaction out in this area, between the realtors, lenders, title, inspectors, all of it, and landman probably on the vast majority of them. And so we know there's a lot of rural activity that people are buying, but a lot of people are from other areas are buying large tracts of land and splitting them up and all that. So on your side of things, are you seeing like a lot of, are you seeing, I know there's a lot of growth out here, but are you seeing like more people than you anticipated maybe moving out to this area at this time?
Oh yeah.
I think so.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, I think, yes, definitely like in that 2020, 2021.
Oh yeah.
I mean, people were flying out here, but I do think, like you're saying, there's quite a few mini developments where we do have the land. So people are buying like, I don't know, 10, 15 acres of land and then subdividing it and developers, building on it. We're seeing that
Oh yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. And then like when you're from Houston and you have an HOA or a POA, there's like pages and pages and pages and pages of rules. But what I notate is these newer subdivisions that are coming out here where they've taken a large tract of land and split it up. They're trying to protect the property value if they're going to establish like a subdivision or something like that. But it's not like, don't hang your Christmas lights on December 26th. Like it's more like,
It's like you have to have a certain amount of road frontage to call it a subdivision. Or I think with a certain amount of land, you have to have, it has to be 1.5 acre tract so that it can be like the septic, the wells, because it's still rural.
Right.
And that's what they're going for, is like, you can have a piece of rural Texas, but really there's 15 other homes.
Yeah.
But people are, and it's so funny, like you said, I think right now we're seeing so many people come from when we were growing up. And I mean, I'm 40, so I don't know if that speaks to everyone, but when I was growing up, Tomball, Cypress, that was the country.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing people coming from Tomball, Cypress, and they're like, we want to get out to a smaller town, because now it's like Houston.
Yeah. The people that have lived there for the 30 years, they're like, okay, I'm being encroached on. It's time to go
That's
outward.
exactly what happened to my family. I come from a farming, ranching background where my family farmed and ranched in Cypress and Katy. And when I grew up, and I'm 40 as well, so in the 40 club. But yeah, that's why we ended up coming to Brenham and Belleville area, Austin County, went 20 years ago. So my family was just surrounded by business parks and where they had farmed for so many years and ranched. And, we're a farming, I come from a farming, ranching, rodeo family. And we had always come here growing up. My dad rodeoed, and we were always at Washington County. We have friends and family here.
Right.
So we just, made the move here. And so it was the best decision for us. But like you're saying, people are fleeing here because they do love that lifestyle. They want to keep that the country lifestyle in their lives and keep that going for generations. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's like bittersweet seeing people more people move out here because, they don't make more land.
Right.
I know.
Right. Yeah. So it's like you had to grab up as much as you could when the market was good, like priced correctly and everything that made sense.
Yeah.
But it is nice. Like, even if you're moving from the less than a quarter acre lot, in a subdivision, if you get an acre or two, it could just add a lot of peace and value to your life every single day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So speaking of, you growing up in the farm and ranch lifestyle, one beauty about Texas is the exemptions that you can get.
Oh, yeah.
And so each county is different based on the type of ag exemptions and the size that you're needing. But that's one thing that you guys can not necessarily help with of doing the paperwork, but you can absolutely help guide someone, right?
Right. Yeah. That's a big thing that I've learned over the years is especially with agriculture exemptions and when you divide property and you can be subject to rollback taxes and things like that when you change the usage
That's a
of
juicy
a property.
topic.
Yes, yeah. So it gets really complicated.
Yeah. So there's timber, ag, just like livestock and all of that.
Wildlife.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah, wildlife.
And what do you think is the most predominant exemption that's filed out here? Like, what do you commonly see of people that are not only relocating, but just that is utilized the most?
Definitely agriculture exemptions.
Yeah.
I think those are the most, because of the land, there was larger tracts of land that were in ag use for so long, and then people want to continue or buy bigger tracts of land, and they want to continue to keep keep the property for ag usage. So they're wanting to keep those exemptions. But yeah, I think agricultural exemptions are the most common here from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely a plus for people, to keep.
Yeah. And
So
many people that are coming from a city lifestyle, like they immediately, like the thought of maintaining and farming and ranching on, a large tract of land is a lot. So they're like, we just need 5 acres for bees.
Exactly.
yeah.
I was going
Yeah.
to say bees. I think
Yeah.
that bees are a lot too,
I have
because
seen a couple of customers where they did have the bees, that's really cool too.
Yeah,
So-
because I think, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but anywhere in the state of Texas, if it's 5 acres. But as far as like, if you want an ag exemption or anything like that, that varies by the county.
it's
Right,
usually
and
like around 10.
Yeah,
right?
it's about 10. And it's, you'd really have to have a relationship with your tax appraisal office.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that and we have a great one here in Washington County, just coming from Houston and Harris County.
Yeah.
That was very difficult to deal with, and get information from. But I do say that people here at our appraisal district here in Washington County are very great to work with. They give you a lot of information and help you along the way.
Right.
And so a lot of knowledge there with rural property. And so I always recommend, people to, especially when they're building and trying to figure out like what their taxes are going to cost them in the future, just definitely calling and kind of talking to someone at the tax office to get some information. But yeah, I talk to them all the time. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important when someone purchases a property to pay attention to those deadlines and make sure that you're filing for those exemptions, whether it be homestead or ag or any of those, that you're doing it in time after you purchase. Because if you buy in August, it's different than whenever you buy in January.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, your prorations are going to be different depending on the time of year you close. So, yeah, it can vary. So, but we do make sure we have a good relationship with the tax office so that we can, make sure our customers are getting the right information and we're giving them the right information as well.
Yeah. And then
So-
I love out here, like I know when we moved, we were in the middle of a drought. Like it was definitely going to be a drought. And so you can switch that. Like if you say you're going to do like livestock, and you know that it's not going to be a good hay season or whatever that looks like if you're going to hay on it. Like you can switch it to like wildlife or something like that without sustaining the rollbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm really not certain about how that part works on the tax side, but yeah, definitely just recommend if you're going to do something like that you talk to the tax office and make sure that you're not going to get hit with anything like that.
But a lot of other states, and in the United States don't have what we offer here in Texas.
That's right.
Yeah.
So why do you think people are flocking here so much besides like the land? Do you think it's just something, just the vibe that we have here? Like,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Well,
I
not
mean,
to get political.
I know,
but
right? I'm thinking,
I think it's that. I think it's that. We do have a sense of autonomy in Texas that other states maybe don't have. And we do have a history of
people don't know that this is like the birthplace of Texas.
the birthplace of
Right.
Texas, Washington
So
County.
much history.
Yeah, and it
I
is,
love it.
and that it's the birthplace of Texas as a nation, kind of,
Right.
and so I think that's interesting about Texas too, is we've always kind of stood by that. We kind of operate, and you've seen in the past year, now that our governor kind of operates like, okay, well, whatever's going on federally, fine, but this is what we're going to do in Texas, and it's usually not the same, and so I think that's where people know that the freedoms and liberties that we have had for years and years to come, we tend to stick with that when other states are not, and they're just kind of going by way of the federal government. I don't know how long that'll last, but for now, I think that's why we see, lots of people coming out here and celebrities and, business owners. That's another thing too. Like we see so many business owners moving out here because the restrictions are not, the taxes are not as bad. The restrictions are not as bad. And, that kind of thing.
A lot of people want to raise their children in areas where there's conservative Christian values. And, that's a huge part of Texas, So.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many events that can go on in an area, like community events and things like that, it's family friendly for everybody.
Yes.
And, the people that you get to know, like, and trust, like in your just social relationships, like you see those people and you get to build those relationships even more than you would,
It's kind of hard to hide here. Like I think that's the thing. We were just laughing the other day. I went and traveled somewhere and I was working at a public place and I went to the bathroom and I just left my computer there. And this lady was like, we watched, everything was okay. And I was like, I didn't think about it because if I go somewhere here in Brenham, a coffee shop or something, I'm like, it's fine. And if it's not fine, I'll chase you down the street.
Yeah.
But like, if you're in Houston, it's like, you would never not lock a vehicle it is a sense of like everyone's kind of looking out for each other here.
True, especially on like the social media pages about that, like these areas, like the Brenham and everything. Like if you just get on like the Washington County News or something like that, everything that's going on. Where you couldn't do that in the Galleria,
or like they would put that on the news. Like we laugh. One of our escrow officers, she works on her escrow team. She is so on it with all that stuff. And she actually is so incredible with property because she knows so many people here. It's such a different market, so she'll be like, oh, I know exactly who that is. We closed that 4 years ago. I'll call her, and so that's another thing too with title. You're not usually like keeping in touch with your title team. Like once you sell the property, you're kind of out, but like with her and it just being a different market here, you do, right now with rates, a lot of lenders and a lot of people are talking about refinancing later. Like people will say, oh, rates are so high, I don't want to buy right now. And people will say like, well, you can just refinance. So, so we do that too, and so we've had lots of repeat customers over time that we've built that relationship, which is funny to say that you would have that. But, over even the past 4 years, how different the market has become, and it will continue to change. There's such a cycle, and we're going into an election year and all this, and rates and all these things will change. And so to be able to have that relationship too, and our relationship with our agents and say, hey, so-and-so that closed last year is going to go ahead and refi, and to be there and know the property, know the survey, know everything ahead of time. And just, I think we have a couple that we worked with for quite some time that just listed this month or last month, and we closed their property and then they refied 3 times over like 15 years. I was just gonna bring
them up because I was thinking those same people. Like,
and
I
so
love that.
Yeah, and they call and they're like, oh, look, we want to see our commitments and what was, everything like that. And so it's like we have all that history, and I think it speaks to small town USA, where it's
now
like
their family is closing with us, and then so
their kids and grandkids and everybody can like come along and
I love that. Like I love, especially like meeting people at the closing table and getting to hear their stories and things like that. I've met so many people over the years at the closing table, and it's been so nice to establish those relationships with people, and then also to see repeat customers coming in, and then their referrals, then their family, and so it's just really a really cool experience to see. So one of the many reasons I love being an escrow officer and working in this industry. So that's very satisfying to me.
And I will say, when talking about people coming in from other places, there's been so many investors coming in from outside. And I think that's interesting too. We do a lot on the commercial side.
Right.
And a lot of times it's commercial in rural areas, you know? So it's like there's some difficult transactions out
yeah.
there.
And it's like, so I've been doing this this will be my 12th year of doing real estate. And I remember like whenever I first got in, like the broker that I was with is like, you do residential, commercial or farm and ranch, and like, you don't commingle all of those.
Right.
But you come out this way and everybody's doing all of it.
It's everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And it gives you such a multifaceted of all the things that you can do, and you can learn so much.
Oh my gosh. Every day is something new.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so when people ask like, do you do commercial? Yeah. Do you do investing? Yeah. Yeah. All of it, whatever you need.
Do it all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, are you expecting like a lot of the corporate structures to start coming out here? You know, I know I've got like a Chick-fil-A and Starbucks and all of that, but a lot of big Academy, Hobby Lobby, that whole strip just kind of popped up, and it does add economic growth. But do you think that it's going to start coming more out here? Other big businesses?
I think so. I think when we moved here, I'm trying to think of the exact number, but I think it was like 15,000 in Washington County when we moved here in 2020. And the projection for 2025, so next year, and that would only be 5 years,
Right.
was like almost 30,000.
Right.
So that's doubled, you know, and I don't know if we're quite there yet, but I know that, you know, I think during that time, everybody was saying like, don't California my Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And you started hearing people saying, don't Houston my Brenham, you know? And it's funny because it's like, there is some economic growth. And I feel like what was here in Brenham prior to 2020, people were wanting a little bit more, like a little bit more from the big city. And I think people in Brenham wanted a Chick-fil-A for like 15
Forever.
years, and now we have one, and it's great. But I think also, you know, we sat in on some development, or actually at the CBOR luncheon or maybe last month, about what's coming, you know, and corporate development here. And I think everyone kind of walked away with that being like, huh, you know, it's like, I mean, hotels and really just like, I feel like so many people, and it's true, so many people are coming from those areas, Tomball, Cypress. So it's kind of turned into a business park city where it's just all these retail business parks.
And then right down the road, you can go live in quietness, you know?
Yeah. I think it's good that they're keeping everything on this 290
corridor
strip where it's really like, yeah, we'll have those conveniences, which are super nice. And it does, you know, bring more jobs and economic growth and that kind of stuff, which is great. Cause a lot of people want to move here, but they're like, what's the industry? You know, if they don't have like a professional job, like, or, you know, a paraprofessional or something like that, that's healthcare, or, you know, a lawyer or a doctor or something like that, or a real estate agent, they're like, how can I live and work there? You know? So I do think that is increasing and there's more opportunity. But I like that we still have a functioning small town, you know, town square. And, you know, I think when we moved here,
downtown is just great. You know,
that's what drew us, as we were like, gosh, you don't see many Texas towns with a town square that really functions
and has like farmers markets and things like
And
that.
the
You can often,
Yes.
Unmatched.
It's such a good hub, you know?
So being an escrow officer during COVID times, you know, that was crazy. And so, and somebody had mentioned, don't California my Texas. I can tell you that I had quite a few customers during the height of COVID times. And they would be like, "Oh, we're from California," and they would be like, "Oh, but don't worry, we're the good California people."
That is true.
Yes.
That is. I mean, I think it's so great. I've helped people move from Florida, from Oregon, from all these places, and it's just making you know, more richness like as they come in. But people love Texas.
Yeah,
I know, and they feel it too. They feel what we put off as Texans. I feel, you know, that we're like, they're proud of it immediately when they come in, and they're like, we're proud of Texas. We're proud of our, you know, our history. And everything. So
and going back
cool
to
watch.
you know, where people, what brings people here, I think COVID really just the influx of people wanting the freedoms that they didn't get in the city without all the crazy restrictions and everything, that just made people flock here. And it was, you know, and then they could actually work from home and they didn't have to drive into the city.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
That was a huge part of the growth here in the last 4 years is because of the availability and the access for people to work from home and then not have to, you know, drive so far into work. They could just live anywhere and work from home. So I think that brought a lot of people out here as well. well.
And then that kind of stayed post-COVID,
Yes.
where people are now having limited in-office hours and
Exactly.
more, remote positions where it's like, I mean, we have friends that just moved to Belleville. They were central Houston, just like us, but he's, energy corridor. So if he
Right.
goes in 3 days a week instead of 5, it's kind of, he's like, I actually collect my thoughts on my drive home and my drive, and it's all of a sudden when you would have said an hour commute, you want to drive an hour.
Well, it's kind of a joke in my family. It's like, how long is it going to take to get there? An hour. Just wherever
Right.
you want to go, it's going to take an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. I know. I'm like, we're, talking about things here. It's funny because like in Brenham, or even if you're just outside, in a rural area, it's like, how long does it take to get to HEB or school or work? 10 minutes. We always say like everything's 10 minutes, but then when you want to go to some kind of convenient thing into a big city, it's an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and we're fine with it. We'll
And
drive
we
the hour.
complain, oh my gosh, it took 15 minutes just to get to HEB. I'm like, from
I know.
downtown or, in our little traffic area here.
Yeah, every single time I drive back into Houston and I hit like that 610 loop at I-10, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even, like, I'm not even prepared anymore. I'm like, this was my life for how long? Like, this was my life. And now if I get a tiny bit of traffic, I'm just like, I got to go back. I got to go back to Brenham.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful to live here, especially after, Beryl, the hurricane we just had here, and then seeing all of the issues that the cities is having. It's like, I'm just so grateful.
Yeah. So I remember when Harvey happened, and like you were saying, like on the real estate side, when you got into it, like I remember when there was even like a drop down in the MLS if you're putting a listing in, that it was just like, did you get impacted by the hurricane?
Yes.
Or something along those lines.
Yes.
And I just, after Beryl happened, when the day it happened, it was wild.
Yes.
I think it was like, we felt it here the day of, even though we're so far from the coast. But that is something that I love about Texas. This gives me chills even just thinking about it. The people that come together, no matter
Every
where
time.
you're at, every single time. And so I had to go out to the Houston area because we have all these listings that are coming up, and I still serve those counties. And when I drove in there, we didn't have power. We didn't have internet. And when I drove in there of those areas, like it'll take you aback. Just the debris in the road and people just not having power and for days. Still
I
don't
know.
have it.
Right. I know.
I know. And what's crazy about that too? We were talking about that, about the structure, and I don't know what's going on with, and I said, but I remember back in the day, we had hurricanes all the time.
Yeah.
We got power. It wasn't like these weeks where you were out. And I think because it's so saturated now, it's so much longer for people to like come back online. It's just so saturated. But I mean, I flew in to the airport. I was out of town for the whole hurricane situation, which I'm like, that's okay, because we had a tornado a couple weeks before that, and my husband's always out of town. When we had the snowmageddon here, not long, however long ago that was, a couple years ago, he's always out of town. So I was like, I was out of town for one thing, but I flew back in, and it's at the airport at Bush, it looked like a third world country.
Yeah,
and it was pitch black. There were no street lights on. People were in line, and I have to say it was the same thing. I was like, gosh, they do this every time. They come together like this every time, because people were in line getting gas. And I noticed almost no one was getting gas in their car. They all were filling up gas tanks to like take them back out, to people for generators, for other people, for that. And there were 2 other gas stations right on each side that didn't have gas, didn't have power, didn't have anything. And so then we've now seen people coming this way. I know, like they're starting to run out of gas in Grimes. And people are coming out this way. And I've talked to a couple of family members that are there. A tree fell on their house. But what's crazy about this summer, I think it's the 3rd time that people have been without power for like a week.
Yeah. And if I was a Texas transplant. Like my husband was in the military, and so we were at Fort Hood forever. And so whenever he got out, he was like, I want to do this in the oil industry. And I was like, okay. So we moved out here, and he's in that field where he just up and leaves. Like we get here, I didn't even see our first house until after. Like my daughter was like 2 months old, and I'm like, let's move to Texas, like back to Texas, because long story. But anyways. Since we've been here, I mean, there was like the massive fires that went through. Then it was, there was Ike that happened as well a while back. And then it was Harvey. I specifically remember Harvey really well. That was my birthday. So I was just like,
oh my gosh.
Yes.
You'll never forget that.
Yeah. I think I turned 30. And then so I was just like, let's go into it. And so that was crazy. And then, of course, the freeze, and then COVID, and then the barrel that just came through. And it's amazing the grit that we develop.
That's exactly it, is grit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I will say, and same thing, I've watched all of that, and it's like, and what's funny is that, and people in Texas will say this, when natural disasters come here, the media doesn't really cover it.
Right.
No one really knows about it.
I'm sure it's the same for everywhere, but
I don't know. I mean, you hear a lot about the fires in California, and and I'm not saying any disaster is worse or anything than any other, but I always think it's because of that. I always think it's because of the way Texans come together. It's almost like they're like, don't worry about it. We got it. It always seems that way, that like everyone's on board.
Everyone's whatever.
Yeah.
We got this. Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of like a blip on the radar always, I mean, I remember for Harvey and for Ike, nobody covered that, but like there were just beach houses in Galveston just pulled into the ocean. You're just watching all this devastation. No one talked about it. And it was like, how is no one talking about this on the media? I'm like, does anyone know what devastation just came? And like, especially in real estate, like you're saying, like now all of a sudden we have to notate, not only that, was this damaged in Harvey or not, but like at that time it was like, how much water did it take in? Yeah. Was it after the release of the reservoir or was it before or what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like the fact that people just snap back into place. I mean, they're together. I mean, it just seems like things happen. It's a major disaster. And then everyone just comes around each other. And it's like, it's like nothing ever happened again.
Together, because when there's such a huge natural disaster like that, like police and the first responders, everyone has to become that at that time, because there's just no way for those people to get there to certain people. So everybody becomes a first responder, and they, that's what that's just shows true to how Texans are. I think. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree with that. And, one of the things that on the real estate side that a lot of people, that it just happened to us yesterday, was when things like that happen, and someone's processing a loan, and you're going to have to make sure that the house that you're purchasing or selling is intact. And so a reinspection by an appraiser might be needed. Crazy. So just when those things happen, just be patient. It's wild, it's crazy, but buckle up, and just, I like the fact that when things happen and things come up in our fields, each and every one that we, and what we do, just write it out, and you have to understand.
You have to be patient and understanding, because it's
and I think
all sides.
Yeah. Like what happened to you yesterday, knowing that mandate, after that weather happened, and you're like, oh my gosh, wait, but this still has to close.
Right.
Yeah.
And you like for you had a family that like needed this to be done and has lots of other stuff going on. Right. But like you said, when it is their biggest investment of their life, and not just their house, but like their home where they're bringing their family to and everything like that, I think that's where we band together too. When, when you were like, oh my gosh, something really came out of left field. Can we close this? And we're like,
because one of your locations where we're going to close, like there's no internet, there's no power at places, there's all of that going on. So you have to band on your people and your connections to make magic happen.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And that just ties into why I love being part of the Southland family, because we can totally help each other. And, especially because we have so many Houston, clients that are, living in both locations or moving from there. Right. It's, we have that capability to help.
And I love that when it was all over, I came into your office and, I felt like Rambo, honestly.
I know.
But you guys had open arms of like, we're here.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
It's like back to that. It's like, we probably have PTSD from stuff like that happening to us with all the floods and all the things, and it's like, oh my gosh, just how can we help?
Yes,
it was like, how can we take this away?
Things easier for people. We are definitely problem solvers, and
you have to be in this
definitely
real estate industry.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an utter delight. Like,
Yes,
of course,
this
we
is
love
so
talking
fun.
about what we do
Yes.
and all of that, but just sitting with you ladies and getting to know you even more, like, I loved it. Like, it's been
Me
super
too.
fun.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
great.
so exciting.
Yeah. So, if anybody wants to reach out to you, like on social media, or where can they find you if they have any questions about title and how you can help them?
Yeah, they can find us pretty much anywhere social media, on Facebook and on Instagram. We're Southland Title Brenham. So you can find us there, or you can find us at southlandtitle.net. So we are there, and you can always reach out to me if you're an agent and you want some extra exposure or anything like that. We're happy to partner with you in that area. And then anything for actual escrow services, you can always reach out to Brenda, and you can find her information those places as well.
Happy
That's
to help.
awesome. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share before we close things out today? Anything you'd like to say?
Well, I just want to say, I'm thankful for this community, and I'm thankful to be in Brenham, and I've worked with so many agents and lenders and people in this industry, and it's just been really a pleasure to get to know people and to help people and to provide a good service for people. So, I just love what I do, and if I can help anyone in the future, just let me know, because it really is a passion of mine, and I've been doing it for 22 years. So, I love it. And especially this community and being a part of it. So,
Continue that hard work.
Yeah, we have a great
Yeah.
team, as well. And everybody helps and, helps to get the deal done. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would just say for people, especially kind of in this area, just stay interested in other people and interested to come alongside them, because, even with this instance that we had yesterday, I think that's just so, it speaks to our community and it speaks to who we are, just being interested in one another. When, you can come to the office and then we can start talking and help with something. And then it's like immediately like a wall was down, like we had known each other forever.
It really was. That
And
was
it
nice.
was just like, and you're like, hey, y'all should come on my podcast. And then
Yeah.
we're like, hey, and then we're trying to think of other things that we could do together, And so I think just to like, just whatever's going on in this market, just the more you really care about getting to know someone, and being there for someone, you might have a relationship that is going to last for years and years to come. So instead of just thinking of someone as, an agent or a client or things like that, to think of them as just a person that's in your community that you could have a lasting relationship and friendship with. So
Yeah, building strong relationships is
Yeah.
very important to
I'm
us,
grateful for that
sure.
about this community. So
Absolutely. And, it's been an absolute joy with you both. And thank you so much for your time. Before we close things out, we have a gift from Texas Trio Team for you two ladies.
that's so sweet.
is so
that's awesome. I could use this.
Awesome. Thanks
so much for having us.
Thank you guys.
Of course. And tune in to us at texastrioteam.com. We all have episodes each and every single week. If you have any questions, reach out to us. But until then, keep living your best life.